Hello, everyone. My name is Jamie Hinkle. My pronouns are she and her, and I'm the Learning and Inclusion Manager at PFLAG National. Thank you so much for joining us as a part of today's Something to Talk About Live. As always, I'm going to be hanging out with you all in the comments section, regardless of where you have joined us from. So if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to share them in that comment section. And I'm going to bring in Jean Marie Nevada to help get us started with today's conversation.
Jamie Hinkle!
Happy New Year!
Happy New Year! It has been a long time since we've been together on here.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like we took a couple weeks off for the holidays, and I took an extended vacation, so it has been a while.
Yeah, you totally left me on my own, unsupervised, left to my own devices. Thank goodness for Mackenzie.
All right. Well, you have fun, and I will be back later.
Thank you, Jamie. Hi, everybody. My name is Jean Marie Nevada. My pronouns are she and ella, and I am the Director of Learning and Inclusion at PFLAG National. Every single week, we get together to have a conversation about something related to LGBTQ equality and inclusion. And this week, we are going to be talking volunteering and what that really means for us. So we start every week by using an article or two that we really love. This week's article and the questions, if you'd like to have this conversation on your own, can be found at straightforequality.org/discussion series. So we actually are using two articles this week. The first one is by the fabulous Tanya Ward Goodman. It was in the Washington Post. It was called "The Holidays Are Over, Here's How to Volunteer Year Round." The other one was by Christina Caron from the New York Times, and it was "An Overlooked Cure for Loneliness." And so I want to tell you just a couple of the really interesting details that emerged for me when I was looking at these articles. So they had a lot of data in them, and a few points that I thought were fascinating. In a 2019 study, 3 in 5 Americans said that they are feeling very lonely. But then when we started looking at the role of volunteerism when it comes to breaking that, there were some amazing findings. So in a survey of over 10,000 people in Britain, 2/3 of people said that volunteering made them feel a lot less isolated. From a 5-year study in Detroit, researchers found that when people volunteered, helping people, particularly with people who they don't live with, so assisting people outside of their home, it actually helped buffer them against the damage that stress does to our bodies and our minds. And finally, and this one's really interesting, the AARP Experience Corps had some research, and they found that of the participants who participated in their volunteer projects, 85% said that it improved their lives, and 98% said that it helped them stay mentally and physically active. So there is a lot to talk about when it comes to volunteering. What does it look like? What motivates people? What do we get out of it? How do you do it? What keeps people coming back? How do you not burn out while you're doing it? And to do that, of course, we have really, really, really smart people joining us to help out with things. So with this, I would like to introduce this week's guest from our PFLAG family, which always gets me really excited in case you can't tell. So I'd love if we can bring in Sandy Brown, Faith Moeller, and Sung Tse. Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Hello.
How is everyone doing? Everybody safe and at home and doing okay?
Yes.
Or as okay as we can be in these very strange zombie apocalypse days? So all of you are here because when we started talking about great volunteers for PFLAG, I have to say some of your names were among the first ones that actually came up in conversation. So I want to get into our discussion today. So one of the articles that we were looking at actually talked about there are a lot of motivations for people to volunteer. One researcher said there are 5 primary reasons: personal development, community connections, understanding people who are not like you, satisfaction for your personal values, or self-esteem enhancement. So starting with you, Sandy, I would love to know about what brought you to volunteer with PFLAG and how long you've been doing it.
Well, actually, I started in 1995. I was a lesbian living in a rural community that was very conservative. There were no LGBT groups. So I thought PFLAG sounded like a safe place to be. Everybody has friends who are LGBT, and it didn't mean you had to come out to do it. So I did that, and I started as a representative, so I wasn't very active right away. But we got a letter in our post office box because that was before the internet and email. And this young man felt like he was going to, that he might commit suicide, that he thought he was all alone in our community. And I called him as soon as I read that letter. And then we set up, it was the year for Ellen's coming out. And we had a Ellen's coming out party and gathered about 16 supporters and decided at that point we would continue to meet. So that's how I got started and have continued ever since.
So you got a few years under your belt at PFLAG now, just a couple. Sung, what brought you to PFLAG and how long have you been doing the work?
Let's see. I have a trans masculine child who came out to me in 2015. And I was just stunned when I found out that other parents are not affirming of their children. At worst, they are disowned and kicked out. And that was very difficult for me to comprehend. And then I met some other KQTs, Korean, queer, and trans people who were in that same boat when they didn't have affirming or loving parents. So I thought, well, I can't just stop in my own house just because I love and affirm my own child. Oh, well, too bad for the rest of you. As a human being, we can't do that. Seeing other people, meeting people who are suffering. That makes us that's what's human, right? That makes us human, to care about others aside from ourselves. But anyway, that's why I'm here.
Thank you. And Faith, what brought you? I know you're one of our newer chapters.
Yes.
In the timeline of PFLAG. So tell us about that.
Yes. So, and I'm very honored to be here because I am such a newbie. My daughter, Mia Moeller, she came out when she was 13. She's 19 now. And at that time, we were at a very conservative evangelical church. I was on staff. My husband volunteered with the youth. My daughter, Mia, was even on the adult platform leading worship. All the kids were part of the ministry. And when she came out, it was devastating. We knew that they wouldn't know how to handle it. We didn't even know how to handle it. But it came quickly. I knew that I needed to step down and find a safe place. And other Christians in the community that recognized me as a leader came to me and told me that their kid had also come out, and they saw that I was being public and I wasn't ashamed of it. And so we started doing book clubs together, and PFLAG were in lots of the books. It would say, find your local PFLAG chapter. So I started visiting Tampa PFLAG, attending their meetings for like 6 months. And then I just felt like our community, where the tallest buildings are churches over here in Riverview, Brandon area, really needed a safe space. So we planted that group of parents, planted this PFLAG chapter with myself 2 years ago in March. And we had one in-person meeting before we all had to pivot to online. So that's how we got here.
You did start at one of the strangest times to possibly start a PFLAG chapter.
Yes.
Sung, I saw that you had raised your hand when Faith mentioned churches. Faith was a significant piece of your story. Would you like to sort of add a little bit to that?
That I am also from a background of evangelical Christians, and we've been at the same church for 25 years. These friends, when you attend church, that is your community. It's not just your friends. You do everything together. So they knew my child when he was still in my womb, and loved him, I guess, until he realized he was trans. And then, I don't know what he did wrong. I don't know what we did wrong, but to have your entire church community, all people that you've known for like 25 plus years, sort of give their blessings for you to leave the church. It was hard. It was very hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And ironically unchristian. Very unchristian behavior, in my opinion, but
Absolutely.
Yeah. Certainly not emulating anything that happened in the Bible. So before I get on my soapbox, and we know I'm prone to that. So getting back to volunteering, because I think that this actually brings us right into that next question, because all of you have talked about what brought you in, and it was partially personal. A lot of it was caring about other people and essentially wanting to pay it forward. One of the articles that we are looking at this week, actually, somebody mentioned that volunteers should not be expected to be impeccably altruistic. Like there's this idea that volunteering, you shouldn't have to get anything out of it. And it encourages people to see personal gains when they volunteer. So Sandy, starting with you, from your perspective as someone who has been doing this a very long time, you predate me at PFLAG, and that is a long time. Do you agree with the statement? Do you disagree? Can you talk about what you have gotten out of your volunteering experiences?
Oh, I totally agree with that statement, because I think that's what keeps you coming back, finding new friends, feeling like you're doing something important. Those are some of the benefits of being a volunteer. And certainly with PFLAG, we have such great issues and such great need. I think that fills a big spot for us.
Do you think, because you mentioned that first experience that sort of brought you in, getting that letter from that young man, did it scare you at first? Did you feel unprepared as a volunteer? And do you feel like you've grown as you've done this a little bit more? Because that's kind of a big way to start a volunteer opportunity.
Oh, yes. It was overwhelming to start with. I wasn't sure of what we could do to help him, but then just finding other people to support him, I think, was the main thing. And then as a group, we decided we need to be here every month. We need to provide this.
I love that. And I'm so grateful that you are providing it, especially as we look into some of the places where there aren't as many resources for people who are in the community. That's why these chapters become so important. So, Sung, what about you? Do you agree or disagree with this doesn't have to be totally altruistic? And can you talk about some of what you have taken away? Because you certainly entered this because of what happened with your church in a state of hurt, I'm sure, because that was not easy. So what has volunteering with PFLAG meant for you?
What's funny is in high school, I think someone asked in a class the meaning of altruism. And my teacher said there is no true altruism because you get something out of everything. So I thought, okay, that was interesting. But anyway, it's positive reinforcement. You are going to come back to something that gives you positive reinforcement, right? And what I like, even though I've lost my church community that I knew for a long time, I have been so, I will say blessed that the people that I've met, like I wouldn't be here, having a platform to talk about loving and supporting the LGBTQ community, especially in the API, the Asian, Pacific Island community, which we culturally do not speak out. So I want to make sure that give my community a voice. And my life is so much richer by getting to know the LGBTQ community, that I am now a part of, as an ally because of my child. I can't even overstate how and how rich my life is. What I was living, even as a Christian at a church, one time I really said to God, is it being a Christian, sitting in Sunday school, teaching kids, being an usher, I wanted to be a full soul for Jesus. And then bam.
And boy, you got it. You got your wish. The prayer was answered.
Yes.
In a pretty big way.
I did.
Yes.
Thank you. And Faith, so your opinion on this, do you think it's a pure altruism, or are we getting things out of it? And what have you gotten out of your experiences so far? Because I know your chapter has gone through a lot in a very short and intense time.
Yeah, it has. And you know that sentiment, it's better to give than to receive, right? And I feel like that is what happens. Like when we give, we do receive. And Sung, I can totally relate. That community that we left, that we thought we were going to live with forever, that family, I feel like once we left, we inherited an even closer, more authentic family that has challenged me to grow into my authentic self. And there is nothing purer than offering hope. I love it. I love going to a PFLAG meeting or being on a call with somebody because I have my cell phone number attached to the national website because I don't want to miss a call. And sometimes I don't get to hear from these people. They might not show up to a meeting on Zoom or in person, but I know that I've offered them hope, and that totally fills my cup. So, that's why I do it. And that's what makes me, continue to come back for sure to volunteer. Yep.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
But, volunteering, it can be difficult. We talk about this at a lot of PFLAG, and everyone on this program already has talked about having to navigate some really difficult situations, some situations which sometimes we are dealing with trauma that I will say, having done this for a long time, you sit there and you think, I don't know if I'm ready for this. So it can burn people out. It takes a lot of time and energy. And Sandy, it is perfect to start with you with this one because you have managed to stick around for such a very long time. So how do you keep yourself from experiencing volunteer burnout? And when you're talking to people who are starting to have it, what do you say to them? What do you do with them? What is your best strategy? Because I think sometimes we go into it so fierce, and what you encounter can wear you down pretty quickly. So what's your take on that?
Well, I think that the main thing is to remember to take care of oneself. And I encourage others to learn to say no. I can't at this time, or thank you for thinking of me, but I really don't have room in my schedule, because I know that's so important, and you have to take a break sometime and just say, I need a little time off here. And all those things are important. But I want to recognize those who I meet and want to do something for me, but they're saying that no. It's a little hard because then who do you go to? But I try to recognize that and let them know that's okay. And when you have time, come back to me.
It's interesting. I actually came to PFLAG originally as a volunteer, and I volunteered to do one thing, and I discovered that the phone calls would start, well, nobody can write this. Can you write that? And you keep taking these little bits and pieces on. But for me, I got so much out of it, although I could say it was a little bit of an intense experience at first. Sung, what do you, because you're working with families that are often under a lot of pressure, experiencing a lot of stress because you are right in the intersection of ethnic and racial identity and sexual orientation and gender identity. And that can be very difficult and frankly, bluntly traumatizing in some cases. How do you handle not getting burnt out? And how do you work with people who are, or you see, or it's starting to show up?
I want to warn the people who want to volunteer. And if you are a people pleaser, you need to really be cautious, because you're going to have a really difficult time setting boundaries for yourself. And that's what I've learned. That's the word that I love, that I've learned recently, thanks to my child coming out. Boundaries, setting my own boundaries and learning how to say no, just like Sandy said. And that was very important for me because, yes, as you mentioned, being of Asian descent, I have my own trauma. As an immigrant child, I had my own trauma to deal with. And, it's difficult, when someone else is going through that trauma. It kind of, brings you memories of your own trauma. And you really have to be careful how much you tend to bite. I tend to bite off more than I can chew. And my mentor, Marcia, she warned me. She said, your heart is big and it's great, but we want you in for the long haul. This is not a sprint. This is a marathon, like an ultra marathon, 100 miles, like more like 1,000 miles. So remember that, keep that in mind, and really, learn how to say no to some things, delegate, seek help. Another thing I'm not good at is asking for help. Absolutely. It's so easy to be burned out.
It sounds like humility needs to be a huge role in taking on any sort of volunteer work, because you need to be able to know when you're hitting those limitations. And that's not easy when you're trying to save the world, as I think we all are sometimes. And Faith, what about you? What's your take on how to prevent this? Because before we were starting, we were talking before the show began, and I was saying your chapter had some stories I think that came out right in the beginning of Meeting that absolutely brought me to tears. They were really difficult. How have you sort of protected yourself and other people from burnout? Because it is high level issues that you're taking on.
It is. And yes, we met for the first time in person, and there was a precious couple that I could not wait to get to know. And it was, and that one of them was a trans man, and he took his own life before we were scheduled to meet on our next meeting a month later. And because of that, we're all trying to figure out Zoom. So that our second meeting was on Zoom, and it was a month to the day. And that morning I got the call from his wife and I was the person she called. So here I am, new PFLAG president in this, and Mari felt close enough to me to call me that morning. So, we met weekly until June of 2020. So, of 2021, I'm sorry, we met weekly. And then now we're doing it twice a month, once in Zoom and once in person. But yeah, the burnout can be a real thing. And I don't know really what carried us through other than I feel like you have to take breaks and unplug and don't try to do it all. Find people that are more capable than you are to do the things that do not bring you joy. You know what I mean? If there's things that cause you to have a burden and that you don't know how to do properly, or like the treasury and all of that membership and all of that stuff, you don't have to do it. There's somebody that can probably do it for you. So definitely delegating is a big thing, and unplugging for sure. And self-care, go for walks. Yeah.
Yeah, talk to other people. It just made me think of a question for all of you. Does it get easier to say no to things as you do this more? Do you feel like you have developed a sense of where you can develop those boundaries? Because I think people, especially when they first volunteer, I know this was true for me. It was like drinking from the fire hose, and I wanted to take it all in. Does it get easier? Do you believe that you develop a skill for it over time? And Sandy, I'm going to start with you again, because you've been doing it a while. You've kind of mastered this one.
Well, I'm not sure if it gets easier. I think you learn about your boundaries, and how to enforce them. But there are so many needs out there that call to you, and nobody's doing it right now. So who's going to do it? So I think it is difficult, an ongoing thing. Sorry about the phone in the background.
Totally okay. Sung, Faith, anything that you would want to add on to that about, does it get easier? Do you still find it really challenging to say?
Well, I'm like shaking my head going, yeah, it's gotten so much easier. And I'm like, I'm on public, there's going to be one of my friends call me out. What did you say? You say it's easier for you to say no. It looks like I do a lot of things, but I know I don't do anything alone. I don't. I have a lot of people that help make things happen. So yeah, I don't do it alone. But no, saying no is not easy, but necessary, right?
Yeah. And Sung, anything to add to that one?
Yeah. So maybe not easy, but I am able to say it more readily than I was before, because saying easy is never no. Saying, oh, did you like that? Okay, saying no is not easy,
Yeah.
No, it's not easy, when your heart, being in this organization, this line of work, so to speak, how can you turn people away who are in need? But for you to be able to keep going, you need to be able to sort of differentiate the absolute dire, from the, okay, maybe this can wait just a little bit, or, someone else can take care of this,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's not easy.
No,
what we do is not easy.
No, it's not. And I feel like in some ways, the world is throwing a lot of challenges at our community right now, some really big ones. And all of us are living in states where we're seeing a lot of this happening. And I think my perception is it has increased the pressure to always be able to do it, always be able to come back. So we did talk a little bit about some of those benefits of volunteering. So I want to know, what is the biggest reason that you keep coming back? What is the thing, I mean, that just every single time wants you to bring your talents back, that is bringing you to, to bring other people in with you? And Sandy, I'm starting once again with the top of you. I feel like we keep doing a circle here. What is the big reason that you just have not stopped this entire time?
I guess the need is great, and it's my heart. So I have to respond and draw other people in, so to help out. So that's the main thing. Great friends too.
Yeah. I always joke that when you get into PFLAG, you will discover that you can literally travel to any state, and there's at least one parent who will pick up the phone for you and help if there's a problem. It's a fascinating experience. It's happened to me.
I have done that.
I like watching the news and seeing town names, and I'm like, there's a chapter there you can call. Sung, what is it that keeps you coming back in spite of all the challenges that sometimes come with doing this work?
Honestly, the LGBTQ community, I have, especially the younger people, in their 20s and 30s, I am just so encouraged. I mean, they are just incredible. They are out there, doing stuff that doesn't necessarily just benefit them. They're out there, for racial equality. And it's just astounding to me. Yeah, they have the energy, that too. But oh my gosh, to broaden my own mind, just to think more. Just my thinking, my experience is so broadened. And why would I not go back to that? Why would I keep going to that well and continue, to drink from that well? Like attracts like, and this is the community that I am attracted to, that I want to.
Yes. Oh, I think we just had a little tech glitch, but we're okay now. Thank you. And Faith, what is it that keeps bringing you back?
Oh my God.
For the love of the community that loves me, and to give hope. Like I said earlier, there is nothing like giving hope. There is nothing like letting people know that they're not alone when you have been alone. There's nothing like seeing a mom just bawl and be absolutely undone, and all they want to know is love, that they want to love their kid, but they don't. They've got all these things that are not true that they're believing about their child, and you're like, and you get to be part of taking those scales off of their eyes. And so they can go, yeah, it's that simple. Just love your child. That's all you have to do. You don't have to understand everything. And there's nothing better than being a part of that journey with people. The journey's better together. That's what keeps me coming back, for sure.
I saw one of our viewers, Marianne, actually said she came to PFLAG because she didn't want people to be alone, and no one should be alone. And I think the proof is we can always be together. So we only have a couple of minutes left. I want every single one of you to make your best pitch as to why 2022 should be the year for everyone who hears us to make this year of volunteering for them. I'm also going to say preferably for your PFLAG chapter, but we'll take anything at this point. Sandy, you take it first.
Okay. I would say, if you're looking for fun, friends, and a purpose in your life, volunteer. And PFLAG needs you even when you don't need PFLAG.
One of my favorite points that I love when PFLAGers make. Sung, what is your pitch to get people off their couches and volunteering, even if it's just moving to a computer to volunteer?
If you're addressing me, you need to wave, because my audio went out and I can't hear anything.
Oh, okay. Then I'm going to jump over with Faith, and we'll see if we can come back around. Faith, make the pitch.
Yeah, for me, I just feel like if you feel like you're on the outside looking in, stop it and join the party. There's something that you're able to do. Even if it's sit and greet people coming in, bring the snacks, facilitate if that looks like that's something that you would be interested in, or you feel like you have the ability to do. There are so many things. Fundraising, there's all kinds of things that you can jump in. So if you're on the outside looking in, stop being on the outside, join the party.
Love that. And Sung, do we have you back? Oh, I think we might have lost Sung. I'm so sorry. Hopefully we can, we will be able to at least get something with Sung, and maybe we can post something online later, because I think we just lost connectivity again, and we actually need to wrap up because we are at time. This was too much fun. I actually lost track of myself. Thank you everybody so much for being here. Thank you, Sandy and Sung, and Faith. Sorry, we are going a little bit long, even though I'm not supposed to. We need to wrap up. We are going to have a great show again next week. Please, please, please consider volunteering. Don't even consider it, just do it. Reach out to something in your community. If you want to find your local PFLAG chapter, you can do that by going to pflag.org/find. Every single week, we wrap up the same way. We remind you to run fast, laugh hard, and most of all, be kind. And please, please, please get vaccinated, get boosted, and wear your mask, because we want to get through this so we can all hug in person someday really soon. My name is Jean Marie Navetto. We will be back next week with another great episode of Something to Talk About Live. Have a great week, everybody.